Father, we thank you and bless you for the privilege and the honor to come to you and seek your wisdom, your insight, your power, and your will, Lord. Pray for our city officials and all those who serve us, Lord. Pray also that you would help us to do all things decently in order, to be great communication, Lord. And Lord, we thank you for living in such a beautiful city. We ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Please turn and face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
City Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Hutcherson?
Here.
Commissioner Willis? Here. Commissioner Williams?
Here.
Vice Mayor Easy?
Here.
Mayor Mallon?
Here. All right. Need a motion for the agenda, please?
I'd like to pull G2 if it's possible.
Okay. Motion for the amended agenda?
Move to approve agenda and pulling item G2.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. All right. Public comments. One item. Mr. Dillon.
John Dillon, East Austin Lane, to the break not that's where we're facetious, like anything, so this sort of understand what I'm talking about. Oak Beach has the opportunity to have beautiful beach access for everyone. Persons living mobility or disability should not stop them to join our beaches. 2 weeks ago, Mr. City Manager discussed several items. I want to see the status of beach access regulation for handicap access. During that meeting, she did not say anything about design or construction for beach access coming up soon. She said we should create a task group, make sure all design stuff will be built with with standards. And asked if I would do the group, I said yes. So, you can understand my surprise and disappointment. I saw beach access construction on 2 streets. It started Hall Lane and South 13th Street a few days after our meeting. And that design package called out for ground coquina rock is running a stop immediately. Listen, have all y'all seen or been to the beach access that you see the Cape Mineral? They've shamed on the beach what they've done. On February 13th, City Manager requested a copy of the public records for design package for most street beach accesses essentially that morning. The City Manager forwarded my request to the City Clerk, who in turn forwarded requested to the Public Works Director and the City Engineer. These emails were sent before 10 a.m. Until this minute, I've not received requests for design packages. 2 years ago, at the Allen Shepherd Park Beach Access Construction, design package called out for use of ground coquina rock on the walk surface. I was not concerned about ground coquina rock. It's not a hard surface as required by the ADA standard of accessible design. Coquina rock is not a solid material. Sometime before the Allen Shepherd project, the Leon Lane Beach Access renovation was completed with ground coquina rock and road for handrails. Possibly on February the 1st of this year, a disabled gentleman was on Leon Lane Beach Access by himself. The gentleman's electric scooter sunk into the ground coquina rock. It was several hours before the person saw the gentleman was stuck and called the fire department for rescue. This is exact proof to support my statement that ground coquina rock is not a hard surface and cannot be used for wheelchairs, walkers, canes, or Question, you'll ask me anytime you like to.
Thank you, sir. Mr. And I believe the city manager has an update on this.
Again, when John Dillon and I met, I just didn't even realize we were actually working on those crosswalks. We received an email from another citizen. I sent it to Jared. He just gave me basically an outline of that crosswalk. So just my no knowledge of that already beginning. As I spoke to John, I definitely welcome him to a task force committee. I think it's a good idea going forward. And I also spoke with the city attorney in reference to the current practice of making sure we have a ADA accessible crosswalk and within about 900 feet of each other. I believe that's been past practice. So again, using those numbers just as a round idea of where and how often the crosswalks needed to exist. So again, I did meet with Mr. Dillon, again offered to put him on task force. I just didn't realize we had begun the work on those. It was that simple. And I would also point out that at Cape Canaveral, and I'm not an expert, so I'd ask Jared to speak on it, but my understanding from conversation with Kelsey, the mats are not rolled up and rolled out appropriately for turtle season. So the fact that they're left out there all year is not necessarily in compliance with that type of environmental protection. So my understanding, that's also why we haven't looked into those. So I don't know if Jared would like to offer anything different in reference to that. Jared?
I'll speak to yourself.
Hello, Jared Francis, city engineer. Yes, so those mats, you are supposed to just put them out and take them up every single day, at the end of the day during turtle nesting season. So I don't know if that's outside of turtle nesting season, where that, we're
Right.
outside of it technically right now, so that may not be applicable here. However, the ADA compliance building codes are silent on the beach because the beach is not an ADA compliant, an ADA accessible location technically. You have to remove the sand from the beach to make it ADA compliant. And so with these crossovers, they are compacted, they are tight. I've gotten a lot of positive feedback from people who use wheelchairs going over the crossovers. And they are maintenance free, they're a lot cheaper to put in, and so we're able to replace the crossovers with stairs, and so we're providing much greater access for people with disabilities because they're able to get to, they have more access to the beach because they are gradual slopes, the slopes do meet ADA compliance, and so it is just, ADA requires metal handrails, which as we know, metal doesn't do well on the beach, so we don't add that typically. And then the stable surface would be the other thing. So the kind of the three requirements on the ADA crossing are the slopes, the metal handrails, and the surface. And so metal handrails, I kind of generally disagree with. I think ADA does too, and I think that's why it's silent on it for in the building code. But then the slopes, we meet those, and it is the surface technically, coquina, even though it's compacted and pretty sturdy, it does not technically meet ADA compliance.
Mayor, this was an agenda item. Do you want to close the issue or can I comment?
You can comment.
So, we're blessed in Cocoa Beach to have so many beach accesses, okay? There used to be only about 5 that were handicap accessible, okay? I'll leave it up to the city attorney, the 900 feet or, whatever that is. But we're not like in a position right now where we're forced to rip up every beach access that has stairs on, and make them ADA compliant by any kind of state order or statute. I believe that every one that I've seen replaced to date has been brought down to a position where you could walk with a cane, you could walk with a walker, heavy electric wheelchair, yes, possibly could get stuck in the Coquina Rock. That Coquina, over time, especially down at Slater Way, I mean, it's pretty much rock solid. I guess if you get a lot of foot traffic and it's wet, maybe it's not so solid. But our goal, I would think, as a city and as a commission, is for everyone we replace that we become more and more ADA compliant as we go forward. I'll leave it at that.
I'd like to go back and clarify what was said. I'm not talking about the ramps go out past the constructed part. That roll back, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the hard beach access you walk to. And what Skip's saying, I understand, nobody can make a replace the little beach access right now. But when you replace it, renovation, again, that's when you go back and meet with the American Disability Act standards of accessible design. And the Florida Building Code does not say do that. The Florida Building Code tells you to follow the ADA side requirements. If you go back and read that, you talk about the slope. Well, they did the design for L7 Park, it was 16% slope. The maximum slope is 8%. But it was 16%. So it was designed to get ready to start off with. They started it last year on North Street, 2nd Street, North, and West Street. They had the, it was one, or it was a ramp or step, I don't remember that part, but the elevation was using the cocaine rock with a mesh underneath it, cocaine rock into it to keep it, contained. And two of the sixes went on top of each other. And so it's 12 inches, well, 2 of 6 is 5.5, so it's 1 inch shorter, but you're gonna miss an inch off there. You measure on the scale drawings, and that's above the ground, 3 feet to the ground. Now, how are you gonna put air and support the mesh with cocaine rock on top of it? What I'm saying is the city needs to wake up, and I will take my time, volunteer my time, to make the design package that's done correct with the ADA standards of accessible design. Again, from my engineering expertise, I'll volunteer my time with the city. And then y'all try to go back and award it, and you talk about every 90 or 900 feet. Somebody on a different street, they won't be happy. You're discriminating their right to go stand up to their mate versus go to somebody else's. Again, you're discriminating people's disability. And I'll tell you about disability, I've been blessed to be, and where I've done from my disability. I'd like to see someone else go through what I've gone through.
All right, Mr. Dillon, we appreciate your expertise. You're on the committee that's going to look into this for the future. And I believe the goal of the city and the commission is for every beach access that we take down that has stairs, that we will make them as ADA compliant as feasible within the budget and limitations of the city. So you work with them and come back and give us some feedback in about 6 months and tell me how it's going.
Now,
But we got to move on. This isn't an agenda item.
Yeah.
If we want to make it an agenda item,
be thinking what you're doing.
Mr. D'Alessandro?
Excuse me, I'm still not receiving my design package, so I'll get it tomorrow. I'll pick it up to be where.
How you doing?
Good.
My name is Bill D'Alessandro from 1700 Northland Avenue, Cocoa Beach. I own a Supreme Ice Cream truck. I don't know if there's anything on the agenda for me tonight. Or if I'm just seeing from trying to communicate with everybody over the last several weeks to a month. Long story short is, I went to get a license to operate my truck in the city of Cocoa Beach where I live, and they told me that ice cream trucks are banned from the city. Now, does anybody eat ice cream?
hey, sir, address the commission, please.
These people are here too, aren't they? Are these people out here?
Sir, please. We need to avoid the back and forth.
The bottom line is
not to. I did respond to you, sir, for the record. We spoke.
Well, we did speak. You know,
And I
you
sent
told
you
me
an
to
email
call
as
you
well.
back yesterday or this morning.
I did have a conversation, and I'm happy to have the city attorney and our city manager address it.
Okay.
And also, just for the record, Keith, you realize you
Yeah, I know.
kind of goofed up there. Okay, so this should come back in the future, and if we need to tweak an ordinance to say that prepackaged food is not considered a food truck, or prepackaged ice cream is not considered a food truck, then that will follow the process in the city, and we'll get there or not get there.
I appreciate it.
The city attorney wanted to make a comment, sir.
Okay, that would not be helpful because it would not be a difficult lift at all. If y'all decide you want to have an ice cream truck, I can do the tweak to the ordinance, but it doesn't have to do with the prepackaged food because they're already exempt from our food truck ordinance. And food trucks are not permitted to operate on
Understood.
the
So-
right of way.
So Becky, as our city attorney, please do your due diligence and bring us back something that makes sense.
Oh, I will.
Okay, you heard her?
Yes, thank you. I appreciate it.
Any other public comments? No? Staff reports.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Commissioners. So Commissioner Capizzi asked about a marina. The information I received from our city attorney would probably be best for her to explain it. About the short and sweet of it is you can operate a marina out of the any place you wish to that's within city property, but specifically we looked at the golf course properties. If you were to attach a marina there, it would be allowable as long as we as the city operate it. Not allowable if we put it out to a third party to operate. That's the short and sweet of it. City attorney.
Okay, there's more to it. You would need to hop through all the possible barriers with the DEP permits and the issues having to do with manatees and this, that, and the other.
And the capping and so forth.
And the capping issues. But as far as using that property, under our deed from the trustees of the Internal Improvement Fund, it can be used for a public purpose, and there's case law that talks about a public marina as opposed to a private marina is a public purpose.
So we would have to begin with a needs assessment, and again, reach out to the state, to the different organizations to see what might need to be, where we go from there. So we'd have to have permission. I think probably reaching out to the state and or county, especially since we have the 36 million out there, would be probably a first step. And then there's a lot of other steps, but we can bring back something to you for consideration, and then you can give us direction at that point.
Is that good for now?
So basically we're saying you're still moving forward with it, but it's looking good is what you're saying?
Yes, we'll bring back an
And
offer
you
to
don't
you.
need any other further direction from us?
Not yet.
Okay. Thank you.
And then the air show. So the air show is scheduled for April 15th and 16th. There is a requirement of the permit that we as the city provide the permittee basically 30 days notice as to the costs for reimbursement, which are really nothing but police and fire, public works, so they reimburse the cost for the city to attend and to be part of that event. So we are looking at April 24th, the city would provide the air show estimates. And then at this point in time, those estimates
I
are.
think you meant March 24th?
I'm sorry, I apologize, thank you, sir. February 24th, actually, we have to provide the
Okay.
information to Mr. Lilly, and then he would have to pay by March 24th for the permit to be approved to meet our 20-day requirement. Otherwise, we would end up coming back to either you or to our city attorney for a violation. Technically, the event would not take place, but just laying out the basics of it because the permit has a process. And we've had some questions and concerns of how our permits work, so we just wanted to lay that out for you. And and to announce that we have the air show April 15th and 16th.
With the Thunderbirds in the headline?
Thunderbirds are, yes, they are, yes. And then we have the water, the Thunderbird water is in May. I know that's a different one, but we have a lot of activities this summer.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, City Attorney?
I just want to mention real quick that there was, we will, going forward, have a little different procedure on ordinances, at least until either the Florida legislature changes something or the Florida Supreme Court overturns a decision. There was a decision by the 4th DCA about a week ago that said that you cannot, on a reading of an ordinance that has to be advertised, you can't postpone to a time certain. The case law in the past has always been that that's absolutely fine, there's not a problem with it. The 4th DCA said, no, it's a violation and your ordinance isn't valid. So in the future, when we have to postpone it to a time certain, we'll ask the city clerk to re-advertise it. So I just wanted to mention that to you rather than mention it in the middle of an ordinance.
So basically, we can postpone it to a date certain, but we have to re-advertise. And that's $138?
Depends on the size of the ad.
And we expect this
it's
to
not
be
a
changed
function.
soon, but for right now, we need to do it.
Caution, so, all right, thank you.
Sure.
City Commission, Vice Mayor?
Yeah, I'd like to say thank you to everybody that's been praying for my family and all you guys. My daughter was just this week diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, so my family's been going through a lot, which brings me to a point, possibly, and it's an altruistic request, but the city, no one on the city commission is part or has insurance through the city, and I was wondering if you guys would be interested in bringing up for agenda item in the future to look at commission having insurance through the city, since we really don't make much money anyways.
We would bring back the item, the cost, you know, the budget and so forth. It would take a little bit of time for us to pull it together. We've reached out to our clinic, we've reached out to our insurance carrier. We don't have all the information this evening, so I would be hesitant to provide anything, but we can bring that at probably the March 2nd meeting. I mean, if I can get something for the strategic plan session, I could bring it back if you want to have a special session. I just don't know if we can have information by that point in time.
Do know West Melbourne does offer that.
So yes, we've gone out with a survey, quite a few cities do. It's just how we would offer it, and then we'd have to adjust your budget, and again, you know, possibly what part of that cost will be passed through, and that type of information. You have to create a new tier. You're not part of a typical tier of a city employee because you're not a regular city employee. So again, just working through our insurance carrier. It'd probably be a mid-year implementation. So, but, and then in the meantime, we've also looked to see our clinic services and how they can be a benefit, because you're eligible for the clinic, all of you are.
I think that's it. I would be interested also in looking into the food truck ordinance as well, as an agenda item in the future as well. So I don't know if you guys are.
The ice cream truck?
Well, food trucks in general.
Okay.
So I mean, I know, like the container field, I believe, was initially wanted to be a food truck park, but they couldn't. And I'd much rather see food trucks there than rusted containers. So I think there might be something more that we could look at for that, or tweak the ordinance a little bit. I know the reason is because we want to save the brick and mortars. So I would like to maybe a little bit more of a discussion on it.
Okay.
Ms. Wallace?
You're not, excuse me, Vice Mayor, you're not asking the city attorney to pause on a tweak that would allow ice cream trucks?
No, I agree with that.
Okay.
I would
So
like
you
to see
just
that.
want to look at the broader food truck thing in
Yeah.
the future?
Yeah, I would like to look into that in the
Okay,
future.
well, that'll be a separate item.
Right.
So there's a little form you can fill out
Mhm.
called agenda item.
I know, I just wanted to kind of bring it up with you guys.
I have nothing, y'all, we can enjoy Friday Fest tomorrow.
All right. Commissioner Williams?
I'll pass.
Another.
Just two quick things. Did have a meeting with the port today. We met with Rockledge, Cape Canaveral, Cocoa, and ourselves.
And Titusville.
And Titusville, right? To discuss basically where the port's at, what they're doing. They are expanding their cargo operations. They're getting another crane put in. There's more lumber at the port than they have storage capacity. They made it clear that all the restaurant lease holders there are most likely not going to get renewed. They have no interest in continuing the lease facilities for those restaurant operators. And marinas. I mean, their priority is, if you're not a port, maritime related business, they just don't have any room. That's their core business and they don't have any room. And with the expansion of commercial space, they're looking for dockage there as well. SpaceX is already there, Blue Origin's coming there. So they're just plain out of room. They did give us a pretty frightening metric of over 7 million expected cruise passengers. We did bring up that it is a strain on our community and public safety and certainly infrastructure. And I did have a nice conversation with Mayor Wes Morrison about a potential solution, and we're going to have a one-on-one with our port. And Carolyn, you're our port commissioner, but I just wanted to give you a heads up. We're going to float an idea that you think they should help us buffer some of that cost. And as far as insurance, insurance is probably the biggest crisis we have besides the transitory inflation that we're all feeling. Not only are you going to see your premiums go up, but they're going to change the replacement values of your properties because they know all too well your building costs have gone up. I just got my cancellation notice after 8 years of paying, not filing a claim, and was handily discontinued. So Citizens will probably be the only insurer for many coastal communities. My neighbor just got a $10,000 quote for their renewal, pretty much the insurance company telling them they're not interested in renewing. So it's a major crisis in our state. That's all I got. And enjoy Friday Fest on a happy note. Consent agenda, item pulled from the consent agenda, G2. Commissioner Williams.
I think we read G1 first
And items.
and then we go to
And then we go to
H,
full.
which is the items removed.
Got it. So,
Okay.
City Attorney, item
All right.
G1.
Yes, approve the February 2nd, 2023 Commission meeting minutes. Representative City Clerk Department, recommendation approved.
Move to approve.
Second.
Good motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Now, item full from the consent agenda. City Attorney, would you read item G2?
Yes, confirm the following meetings, events, February 22, 2023, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Ethics Training, City Employees Commission. February 23, 2023, 4:30 to 8:30 p.m. Commission Strategic Planning Work Session. March 2nd, 2023, 5:30 to 6:30 p.m. Commission Work Session Golf Course Study Results by UCF Professor Amy Gregory. March 2nd, 2023, 6:30 to 7 p.m. Community Redevelopment Agency. March 2nd, 2023, 7 p.m. Commission Regular Meeting. March 7th at 5:45 p.m. Commission Special Meeting. March 7th, 2023, 6 to 7:30 p.m. Town Hall Meeting. Representative Robert R. Hayes, City Manager, recommendation confirm.
Okay, the reason I brought this up is the strategic planning work session, and I will admit, I told the city manager that, I could do as early as 4, and I'd prefer 5. And she split the difference and made it at 4:30. But is it gonna kill anybody if I show up like 5 o'clock-ish? I mean, the guy usually kind of rebuts what happened in the first meeting, and I don't think we'll be way into the meat of things. So I'd like to be excused to be a little late on that day.
And I've had other requests in the past, so I think we'll be fine.
Okay.
I think Commissioner Hutchinson, you were able to catch up last time, is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. I just said, wasn't what I was supposed to bring up as a request. I was late the first session.
Yeah, okay, so
So stick to
we
5.
don't wanna move it, to 5.
If that's what you desire, we can move it to 5.
No, I'm just letting you know.
Okay.
I've never missed or been late for a meeting so far, but I will be late for that one.
Okay, thank you, sir.
And then, it was kind of a surprise to me the March 2nd golf course study results. I actually am in mandatory training at the Space Center until 6 o'clock, so I would completely miss that. I've lived through quite a few go-rounds of golf course studies. It'd be interesting to hear the latest version, but unless you guys want to move that to a different date, I doubt I'll be able to participate.
So I would just have to reach out to Dr. Gregory to ask for other dates, so I just don't have those readily available. If we want to,
Well, it's not an actionable meeting anyway, and there will be minutes, and there'll be a presentation that I could look at later, so.
Will it be videotaped?
I mean, we typically do, so I would say we would. I mean, the other consideration is the 7th, move it there, if she's available. I mean, we could do an approval based on possibly a change, if the 7th works any better for you, Commissioner.
Well, if you did it the 7th, it's gonna conflict with the special meeting at 5:45 and the town hall meeting at 6.
So we could move her to 5 so that it would work okay for your schedule. The special meeting is really a presentation, Rotary, and that's really part of your town hall. So we could roll that in at 6 and have no issue with that, if that works best for all of you.
Well,
As long as she's
I don't
there.
want the commission to kowtow to my schedule. I'm just telling you that I'm not gonna be there for the March 2nd golf course study results as scheduled. And if the commission chooses to move it, fine. I'm not insisting that it be moved. I mean, I can read charts as good as anybody else, and I can read minutes as good as anybody else. And it's non-decisional, so we would come back in the future for any kind of decisions we might make.
Yes, sir.
I mean, I'd be okay with the 7th, as long as that fits within Dr. Gregory's schedule. If it can't, then Commissioner Williams, catch up on the minutes.
Thank you. So I'll move it 7th if possible. If not, we'll leave it on the 2nd.
And then on March 2nd, I had the same training, it's a 2-day training until 6. Hopefully, they'll die out by like 5:30 and I can get here by 6:30 for this CRA.
So the CRA is the mandatory meeting that we must hold, so not a
Yeah,
lot of items
yeah,
on that agenda
yeah.
either.
I mean, I'll do my best to be here by 6:30, and if I'll have a backup plan with Lori, or if I'm on the road, I can tie in that way.
Sure. Thank you.
All right, Lori.
So I just want to be full disclosure instead of absent and unaccounted for. So did we move or we're potentially moving that one meeting? So we need a motion to approve the potential for moving the one.
I think your conversation, unless someone says no, then I'll just go with it and send out an email to you. So you won't
Consent
post
to
it.
be this way?
That works,
Okay.
yes,
Yep.
it's fine, yes.
We'll go with consent this way.
Look at that.
All right.
All right, moving right along. City Attorney, item J1.
Okay, this is new business. Adopt ordinance number 1672 on first reading, an ordinance of the City of Cocoa Beach, Florida, repealing in its entirety Chapter 12 Library of the Code of Ordinances and dissolving the Cocoa Beach Library Board, providing for conflict, severability, and an effective date. The Cocoa Beach Library is under the county library system. The Cocoa Beach Library Board is a city-established board. The city has received notice that county staff will no longer participate in municipal non-mandatory library board meetings. Upon Cocoa Beach Commission approval, the library board has finalized the transferring of assets to the Friends of the Cocoa Beach Library Board. I think it's Friends of the Cocoa Beach Library. And anyway, Representative Robin R. Hayes, City Manager, recommendation adopt.
Move to adopt.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
City Attorney, item J2.
Yes, this is adopt resolution number 2023-01, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Cocoa Beach, Brevard County, Florida, providing for approval and execution of agreement CB 22-002, providing for approval of individual expenditures, change orders, providing for the implementation of administrative actions, providing a savings clause, providing for scrivener's errors, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. The Florida Department of Economic Opportunity has awarded the city $3,332,323 in federal funds for the Gravity Sewer Rehabilitation Project. The remaining balance of $632,257.66 has been budgeted in city fiscal years 2023 and 2024. Resolution number 2023-01 approves an agreement between the City of Cocoa Beach and Institute Form Technologies, LLC, authorizes the city manager to approve individual expenses, change orders in a total amount not to exceed 10% of the CB 22-002 agreement price, and authorizes the city manager to take action to implement the provisions of the resolution. Representative Brad Calzo, Water Reclamation Director, recommendation adopt resolution number 2023-01.
Move to adopt resolution number 2023-01.
We have a motion?
Second.
Yeah, just one question. Gosh, I was trying to listen and I read this a couple times. Usually this would say this is a budgeted item.
So it was a budgeted item. We did have contingency money. Brad, would you like to go over those details on the budget?
Yeah, it was originally thought to be the budgeted item.
Yeah, when we applied for the grant, it was $3.3 million. When the bids came in, the lowest bid was 3.4, and then the process took so long for categorical exclusion. So that's what the material price increase came in. But we do show in our current budget 2.5 this year and 1.2 next year. So we will have to adjust next year slightly to meet that 3.5.
So it's a semi-budgeted item. We don't have to change this fiscal year budget to account for it. And Patricia's gonna do her magic to make it fit next year, right? Next year, nodding her head back there. Okay. So this is a lean on next year's fiscal budget for the commission's input.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Public comment? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Last item, public comment on any other items.
Mayor, before we do that, can we go and cover item D? We missed that. The presentation of the investment report
Oh, I'm sorry. Went right over that.
before public, just so we don't forget. Thank you,
Yep.
sir.
Good evening, Mayor, City Commission. We will be presenting you with these reports on a regular basis going forward, but this is really the first time that we've presented this format, so I just wanted to go over and talk about a little bit what you're looking at and what this really means. So you'll see on here There's a column all the way to the far right, that's the interest earnings that you earn. And in a couple of them, you've kind of noted that they're not applicable. What that really means is we haven't earned the interest and we won't earn the interest until it actually matures. So you kind of get a sense of what that anticipated interest earnings is going to be when you look at that fiscal year to date change. So the market change is really just showing you what that value would be if we were to liquidate that investment right now. In addition, it'll show you any additions that we've invested so far this year. So it's that fiscal year to date change includes both that anticipated interest as well as any additional investments that we've placed. So when you look at this and you see the increased investments, most of that is looking at our ad valorem that we've received in the end of November and December. And so we'll invest that until those funds are needed as we progress through the year. There's a couple of different types of investments that we do. The day-to-day is essentially just a savings account that earns a higher interest than if you were to leave it in our bank or Truist. When you look at the ones that have a maturity date, those are term. We can't pull those investments out before that maturity date without a penalty or a loss. The ones that don't have a maturity date are what we call a local government investment pool. And so we invest with a lot of other governmental agencies. Most of these are with the state of Florida. And because we all pool it together, we can invest a huge amount, get a better rate of return. But those are liquid funds. That means we can take them out any time we need them with no penalty or cost to the city. We have a couple that are restricted. If you look towards the bottom, we have one that's debt service, and that's restricted. That represents 1 year of debt service payments, principal and interest. Right now, we have it just a little bit over what our debt service would be. Our debt service payments for fiscal year 23 are right around $3.7 million, but we don't want to, by statute, we don't want to drop below that. The bottom one, I think it's the bottom one, it still says police construction fund, the police station construction fund, and we'll be changing that account title. Those funds actually were spent just in pulling out of the investment fund because they were still earning good interest. But we'll be turning that fund over into the City Hall construction fund. And so if we do go out for debt proceeds, those proceeds will go into this account and we'll draw it down as we spend and complete construction. So those two accounts are restricted for very specific purposes. Each month, this one is as of January 23, but each month we produce now this same report, which will give you an idea of how those funds change. Beyond the ad valorem that's invested, this really is what you're looking at is our fund balance. So we don't use our fund balance for operations, we invest it.
And that's all funds.
All funds. This represents
all funds.
All of the city funds, from general fund to the stormwater to the water rec. When we show the investment revenue, we calculate that based on budget. So we do a percentage allocation based on budget.
And this is a report we get every month?
You will.
Great.
And Patricia, unless I missed it, does this include the investments of our reserve fund?
Yes, this is our reserve funds invested.
In total?
Mm-hmm.
This is all reserve fund?
I mean, yes.
Well, you show reserve funds and then we've got reserve funds for different categories, so.
This doesn't differentiate between restricted reserve, because this is just funds that are invested. When you talk about the reserves and how we can spend the reserves, that's when you have your different categories.
Right, okay. So I know you probably have somebody on your staff, but besides just this page, can we, maybe delineate between the other reserve funds and the actual reserve number for catastrophic events, hurricanes, all that. That's a separate number that we carry every year.
We could break out the total investments to that sort of allocation to kind of give you an idea how it would be
Well, I'd
allocated.
just like to know how our reserve funds are doing, whether they're going up, down, they got funding going in, they got funding coming out.
Can we look at maybe providing you just a simple schedule that shows you what those requirements are based on budget, because we have policy, and how that relates to the total 37 million, so that you can see that?
Right, because we're trying to have a reserve account that's free from all the other entities in reserves of 3 to 4 months of operating revenue.
And it is, again, it's restricted, but we merge, and this particular one.
But this one has them all
It does.
clumped together.
For investment, we can give you another schedule that shows you that. So we'll look at another
I
schedule
don't
for
want
next
to make
month.
a lot of work for somebody, but if they can put this together, they can put that together.
That is correct. It's just that reserve balance and investment isn't exactly the same thing. It's just that we have cash that we can invest for reserves because we're not spending our reserves. We're keeping our reserves in reserve for if,
Okay, well, you could group all the other ones that are, that are defined and must-be's, and then just show us a number for the reserves.
We can do that. We can give you kind of a, if you were to pull it back, where would we put it, kind of scenario, we can do that. If we were to take all of our investments out and put it back into cash categories, we can show you how this is the committed reserves. That's what you're asking?
Well, I'm saying if you have more money in stormwater or something else than you can spend this year, there's nothing wrong with investing it, knowing you're gonna have to spend it next year, and thinking you're gonna make money on your investment and have more money next year. Okay? Do we have reserves in any of our enterprise funds?
Of course.
Right. So split out the enterprise funds reserves from the pure reserves for the 3 to 4 month buffer we're looking for running the city if there's a catastrophe.
You can do that.
Did it come out plain enough that time?
If not, when you see the next report, you tell me how you want it.
No. Did I say it plain enough?
It's probably good in that
Thank you, Commissioner.
Absolutely.
Any other last minute public comments?
Good evening, Janice Scott, Cocoa Beach. This probably isn't in Patricia's bailiwick directly, but about 3 years ago, the Florida retirement system, when you look at those funds and look at the interest and distributions and everything, you don't actually look at the names of the companies that they're investing in. And the Florida retirement system was investing in Huawei Communications. I am, as a Floridian, as a United States citizen, I am patently opposed to any investments in a communist Chinese company. And I know that you probably can't get into that detail, maybe the mayor being in the Truist Bank, they can look into who is investing in what, but I would be opposed to that. Thank you.
Anderson?
Okay, on a lighter note, Rick Anderson, 1800 Minuteman Causeway. With regard to the food trucks, and I'm sure Commissioner Capizzi is referring to Area 142, which if none of you have been there, is a really cool place. It looks really nice. It's a fun place to hang out. And somehow they're allowed to have these ugly, rusty containers there, which are essentially food trucks without wheels and a lot uglier. So if there were a way to somehow amend the food truck regulations to allow food trucks there in place of those ugly containers. I don't know how they ended up being allowed to have them there, but they look horrible. On an otherwise very nice place, a nice establishment. So I would be in favor of looking at that.
All right, any others?
Question on that, if you have private property,
That's what I'm talking about.
if I had a big enough driveway or yard, and I wanted to have a get together, and my wife didn't want to cook, and I wanted to bring son-in-law or somebody to park in the driveway and pass out food, that doesn't fall under this regulation, right?
There are two different regulations we're talking about, but food trucks, we're allowed to limit the zoning category where they can go and whether they can be on right-of-way, that sort of thing.
If they can be on private, what I'm saying is if they're in my driveway, on my private property, inside of the city right away from the street.
In a residential area and selling food? No, I don't think you do.
No, if I have them catered.
Oh, well, then it's a different,
It's still a food truck.
it's a catering truck at that point. But food trucks are when you're selling food.
Well, I understand we don't want them driving all over the city and parking wherever they want.
Right.
And pulling up in the public parking lot and saying, I'm a food truck, buy from me. And then go move on to Shepherd Park and, pay their parking fee for 3 spots and, park there and sell food. I understand that would be a problem, but this.
I don't think there's a restriction on
area,
catering.
when you're talking about area 421.
I don't know what that is, I'm sorry.
142.
142.
142, whatever it is. Area 51. Anyway. Hangar Y. Anyway, if that's their private property, and let's say they say that they're having them cater, but the clientele that's getting the food from them is getting the receipt and taking it to their bar and paying for it, then is that catering or is that
No,
selling?
that's not catering, that's selling.
That's basically what I'm
And
talking
it's,
about. Skip.
and you can decide where you want food trucks. I'm not saying it's a bad idea to have them wherever you want. It's just, you have that right in right now, I know they're not allowed in
I think we
residential.
agree that the problem is we don't want them just all over the place blocking intersections and
Right.
whatever they want to do, and people, running over to them and running out from them in the middle of traffic. They're parked in a 9-foot wide food truck in a 6-foot wide parking spot.
I just think it's a little hypocritical that the city will allow food trucks for Friday Fest and wherever, but then we won't let private citizens have food trucks on their property.
Well, then again, they could have a special event every day, could permit.
That's the distinction. I mean, the genesis of that was exactly that, Skip, was when we discussed it, was we didn't want every food truck vendor coming through our town and taking advantage of the 2.5 million visitors that we have. And frankly, hurting the brick and mortar businesses that pay property tax, they pay insurance, they pay all the operating costs and staffing, and we needed to protect those businesses. So,
in the case of the property he's talking about,
I think we should allow
we were around when Bernard Surf went down, and it was supposed to be a grandiose 3-story restaurant, bar, retail, all that. So if they had all that going on, they would have the restaurant, they'd have the bar, they'd be making money and all that. And having some food trucks there isn't hurting the businesses, the local businesses any more than if they were to put up their 3-story restaurant bar. So
That's my point, exactly. I'd like to try to get that on the agenda.
well, I can solve it tonight. All right, folks, have a great rest of the week. Meeting adjourned.